All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Sales Manager Academy podcast. I'm your host, Omar, and as always, we talk about leadership in boutique settings, retail settings. So, what does that mean? It means we're talking about wireless retail locations. We're talking about smaller AV stores. We're talking appliance stores, pretty much anything outside of your traditional big box retail. We're a little bit more specialized in what we offer, and typically, it's not just a physical product that we're selling, but it's also the services that come along with it. So, for instance, in wireless retail, yeah, it's a bunch of phones that are sold, but that's not the actual product. That's what you need in order to be able to use the service, which is what people are actually paying for. And the service is obviously the cell phones carrier. And that's what we're working with, right? We're talking about how to up our leadership game, how to be better leaders, better mentors, guides to get our teams to actually increase their current level, their current output. Can we get them to level up and help us as leaders reduce our headaches of churn, of write ups, of fire drills, of working 60 plus hours a week, being on call essentially 7 days a week? How you can transform yourself from living that lifestyle to living more of a true leadership lifestyle, which is going to be closer to 30, 40 hours a week, and not having to worry about fire drills constantly because your teams are on top of things, your teams are performing, and more importantly, you're not having to worry about those typical after hours when I'm off phone calls because your teams can handle most of the things. And we know you're getting one of those phone calls, it actually is an emergency, not just you getting blown up because your team finds you to be the bottleneck for everything, right? We're trying to remove you as a bottleneck so your teams can actually increase their performance and be better at what they're doing. We want to help them improve, get better. And there's different things that we can do that actually help us get there. And on today's episode, what we're talking about is repetition and how that's not leadership. Okay. So let's be honest. If your coaching was working, you wouldn't be having the same conversation with the same reps every single week. And you know what I'm talking about because you're pretty much talking about why output isn't changing, why this is happening. You see them come up, right? Whenever you have these conversations, because you're doing a bunch of write ups, you're doing a bunch of fire drills, and then afterwards they drop because they hit that level where you're no longer being annoying. And so they kind of take the foot off the gas and they kind of go back down to their level of training. Okay. That is their base level. And then you have to come back in and do the whole thing over again. And it's just not fun to do as a leader. It's actually very super annoying. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Maybe you feel good about it because you feel that you're doing something. But that actually doesn't mean you're doing something when you're doing the same thing over and over again. Just like Einstein says, right? That's essentially the definition of insanity. And we don't want you to be an insane leader. We want you to be a great leader. And that's what we're working with. Okay. Now, this isn't about how often you coach, it's about how effective your coaching is. Okay. Because the other thing too that you have to remember is that you're training your trainers, you're coaching your coaches, your store leaders, your assistant managers, your leads to do this as well so that you end up taking more of a step back and being able to focus on the bigger picture and work on other projects instead of needing to focus in on this location and then needing to focus in on the other location and the other location and then needing to step in and sell on the sales floor. We're talking about being able to ask the home office and getting it approved to get an increase in headcount because the budget that they gave you, we're smashing through that. We're being solid. We're being one of the best locations, one of the best markets, and we don't have to worry about, okay, we're not going to get the headcount increase. We're going to be able to get after this and get it approved because we're showing that we can do it and we're being consistent and we're not just popping off for a week or two and then going back down. That's not what we're doing. Okay. Now, as a leader, if you're feeling like a broken record, it's a sign that your coaching, it just isn't sticking, right? Because it's not a system. And that's what we're working with. That's what we're working towards. So today I'm going to challenge the way that you think about coaching and show you why repetition isn't a strategy. It's a leadership warning sign. And take that to heart. Okay. Now remember, coaching is not reminding people. A lot of leaders out there, a lot of managers when they're first stepping in, or a lot of salespeople when they're first stepping into a leadership role, think and confuse repetition with reinforcement. If I just say the same thing over and over again, if I just tell them the same thing in our coaching sessions and our write-ups, um, they're going to get it, right? It's just we're reinforcing the actions and the behavior, and that's not it. Okay. Think of it this way. Repetition is, hey, remember what we talked about last week or the last coaching session? Now compare that to reinforcement, which is let's drill that behavior down until it becomes second nature. You don't have to think about it. You just end up doing it. One is very, very passive. You're not focusing on anything. It's more like you have a checklist and you're just checking something off so that you say you did that. The other one is being more active and focusing on training and developing your people to make sure that they actually get that information, get that habit ingrained in their routine so that they can become better, so that they can actually use it, learn from it, and continue forward. Okay. Because when we increase their base level of training, when shit hits the fan, people don't rise up to the occasion. They fall back to their level of training. And when you increase that level of training, that's where their baseline is. So imagine having your bottom performers still be above quota. You might be thinking, well, that's why I got to find top salespeople. You don't find top salespeople. You help nurture them. You train and develop them because there's more people out there that you can train and develop to become great sellers than people who are natural born sellers. That's just the way it is. And when you understand that and you can actually develop people on that route, you start to realize, hey, it's easier for me to bring people on board, develop them and train them. They stick longer, they perform better, they end up growing into leadership roles with the organization. That's where you start seeing a difference, not just in your team's performance, but in your team makeup as well as your leadership goals. What's available to you, the accolades you get from leadership and the executives in the organization, you start seeing those differences. And that's how it begins. Okay. So, question for you, leave it in the comments, right? Let me know what was the last thing that you coached on last week? I'm not talking about period. I'm talking about as a leader, what was the last thing that you coached on last week? And has that skill improved? Or have you just been rediscussing it, reminding people about it? I know not everybody does coachings every single week. So if you did, let me know. If you didn't do it last week, just let me know when was the last time you did a coaching session. I'm not calling you out on your leadership. We need to understand where you're at to be able to move forward onto that next step. Because if you don't recognize where you're currently at, you can't improve where you're going. And that's the first step in changing course as a leader. Now, the other thing that you need to focus on is, are you coaching on the outcome or are you coaching on inputs? See, a lot of leaders focus on coaching on the outcome, on the result. You need to convert better. You need to increase your sales. You need to increase this KPI. This is how you're going to make more money. This is how you just need to increase this item. You're focusing on output coaching. But the issue with people is not that they're outputting less or they're not selling the right items. That's not the disconnect. The disconnect is the behaviors towards it. And real coaching targets behavioral inputs, right? We're talking about the greeting, the discovery questions, the way we're pitching, the timing of the pitching, objection handling, or lack of objection handling. Okay. It's not, okay, well, that's the issue. Just fix that. We need to actually run drills. We need to run something to help them improve that. Oftentimes, they don't understand what is happening, and it can be a small tweak that they do in their approach that makes that difference for them. And that's the important thing. And as a coach, as a leader, we have to help them understand and see that. And there's ways to do that. There's ways to do it wrong. And the majority of people, unfortunately, do it wrong And the fact is, it's not your fault. It's that you haven't been trained and developed as a true leader in real leadership styles. You've been thrown in there and you're trying to figure it out, and you're like, I got this, without understanding that taking a little bit of assistance will help you go a lot further because it cuts down and shortens the learning curve. And that's what we're trying to do for your people as well. When you shorten your learning curve as a leader, that means that you also shorten the learning curve for your salespeople. And when they learn at a faster clip and they see the results at a faster clip sooner, they start to do that more often because they're starting to get that instant gratification. And that's what we're trying to get them to, right? The other thing, too, that a lot of people don't realize is you can't scale performance down for your people unless you break it down into habits that you can rebuild. Okay. Because it's not about the habit that I built in one individual. It's about being able to do that across multiple salespeople, across multiple locations, across multiple territories. And that's when you start to see, oh shit, this system really works. Oh shit, I actually have a system in place that makes a difference, that gets results. That's what it means to actually have a coaching system in place, to be able to train and develop your people. You have to have something in place that's repeatable because it's not just you doing it. Now you're training your store managers, your assistant managers, your store leads to do that as well. And what you'll realize is oftentimes they start to pick it up on their own because why doesn't the store manager want to multiply their force, right? Do a force multiplier on their output. I've talked about how you don't want in the past your salesperson, your top salesperson, to be the store manager. Oh, well, they work the most amount of hours. No, they're one individual. The store manager should not be propping up the store. If they're doing that, you have a not just a leadership issue, you have a performance issue. You want your store managers, your store leaders to be able to force multiply their output. How do you do that? You train and develop your people. It doesn't matter if it's a 1 and 2 location. There's 2 people to one manager. If the manager can get the performance of their salespeople to 60 to 70% of that store manager's output, that's 140, 120 to 140% output. That is more than that one individual could do on their own. And guess what? When people start to see better results, they start to get better. There's constant training and development and coaching. They continue to get better. So where they have started at 140 to 120, 140%, now they're getting better. Now they're performing or outperforming what the store manager was doing before. A little bit of work at the beginning yields greater results. And that's what we're after. Because now, as a district manager, as a regional, I don't have to worry about, well, if the store manager's out, the performance at the location is going to lag. So I need to either step in or I need to bring somebody else into that location to assist. Now you're actually thinking like a true leader. Now you're talking about stuff like The Art of War by Sun Tzu. You're no longer playing checkers. Now you're actually thinking like a true leader and looking at the space and looking at what needs to be improved, how we can improve it. And now you're on a true leadership path because you're focusing on training and developing and coaching. And that makes a difference. So shift things from why didn't you sell when you're doing your coaching sessions, right? To let's walk through how you opened up the interaction, how we went through the interaction. Have them actually focus on the actions, the behaviors that are done. And as a coach, as a leader that's learning how to truly be a coach to train and develop their people, you start to see where the actual improvements need to happen. And you can help your team to see that themselves, your sellers. So they start to realize, oh, this is what I got to do. This is what I got to do differently. And this is going to be the results that come from that. And when they do that and they learn that, and then they just switch it up just a bit and they see the results right away from that change, they want to do it more. This is why we don't do 8-hour data dumps. We focus on micro learning sessions to help our people become better, to get them to truly level up their game. And that's what you want to do as a sales leader. Now, the other thing that you have to realize as a leader is that you don't wing it anymore. You create systems. Systems are repeatable. You know there's an issue in a system because you know what part of the system broke down. And you can hone in and fix that instead of winging it and thinking it's this, or it could be this, or it could be that. You stop all of that and you start to focus on the things that truly matter. You stop throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks. You start focusing on what actually is going to get you true results. And that's the important thing. Now, if your coaching doesn't follow some type of framework, some type of system, it's more based on how I feel or on memory. You're not focusing on mastery. And when we're talking about craft, salesmanship is a craft, just like anything else. It needs to be worked on consistently. It needs to be utilized. It needs to be coached and trained because as it's used more, it's retained more. It's just like any kind of muscle. If you don't work it out consistently, it will atrophy. If you're like, well, I don't know about that because they constantly talk to customers. That's not it. You think Kobe or Michael Jordan or any of the great basketball players would have gone great if they only practiced during fucking game time? Every single one of them has talked about how they took more shots off the court than they ever did playing. And that's the important thing is that we need to focus on training and developing during off off customer interactions. Okay. When things are a little bit slower, when we don't have customer interactions, realize that you need to have certain times where you don't do certain things. My teams were very clear with me. I was very clear with them when I told them I do not want to see them doing any type of admin, including cleaning at the locations, certain days and certain hours. It had to be done before that or it had to be done after that because we are not going to waste those prime hours on things that don't matter. Well, we have a store visit coming up and then get that shit done before then. Okay. Because at the end of the day, the results speak louder than what the location looks like per se. And trust me, when the team really starts to focus in, you'll see that there's a difference in the way that the location looks as well. It makes a huge difference because people are taking more pride in the way the location looks. And that's where you don't have to worry about those smaller little tasks. You'd be surprised how focusing on one keystone habit makes a difference in the way everything else appears at the location and the way that you as a leader appear to everybody else as well. So that's super, super important. Okay. Now, you have to focus on having some kind of framework, some kind of system in place. For me, that's why I created the 15-minute coaching framework. That's why it exists. It's a simple framework that helps coaching, training, and development in a simple way so that it's easy to duplicate. It's easy to continue to do over and over again. It's a process that's systemized and it continues forward. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to, well, what do we talk about? How do I? It's a simple, straightforward method, doesn't take very long, and there's psychology baked into it that makes it super effective. Now, it forces you as a leader to pick an area that you're going to focus on, to drill it in, check for understanding, and to move forward with clarity. And that's what you need from any kind of system, whether it's a coaching system or anything else. But that's the very important aspect of it. Now, think of it like this, guys. We said it earlier, but to kind of drill it in, a coach doesn't yell at their athletes to play harder. It doesn't happen. They break down the techniques, they watch film, they run drills over and over again. Why is sales any different? It's not. And that is what we need to understand. Now, remember, guys, repetition isn't coaching, systems are. If you're tired of repeating yourself as a district manager, as a store leader, as a regional, it doesn't matter. It's time to change up your coaching. It's time to coach differently. Now, if you want the exact framework that's helped me and helped leaders that I've cultivated over time to run focused, effective 15-minute coaching sessions, then check the link in the description and grab that 15-minute framework. It's free to download and start using it. Okay. Now, if this stuck home for you, right? If it struck close to home, wait until tomorrow. I'm going to share some more information and it's going to help you elevate what you're doing. And for tomorrow, to kind of give you guys a little bit of a teaser as to what we're going to be covering, it's going to be focusing on top three or three things that we can focus on to fix as a sales leader. Okay. Mistakes and blind spots that we have. So tune in tomorrow. If you have any questions in the meantime, leave a comment, send a message. Otherwise, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.